Coming up on the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast, the National FFA convention returns. We go inside innovation with Covideo. The Indiana's Future Ready Workforce series takes a look at Indiana's Teacher of the Year. A Logansport company heads to Walmart. IU marks 2 years of one of its grand challenges. A new preschool opens in a former Marsh, and our Eye on Economic Development panel looks at the state of manufacturing. Welcome to the Inside Indiana Business Television podcast. I'm Alex Brown. This week, Indianapolis will once again play host to the annual FFA convention, which attracts some 70,000 attendees and creates enormous economic impact for the region to the tune of nearly $40 million. The FFA has evolved from its early days of serving mainly future farmers to now integrating all facets of modern agriculture, the ag biosciences, where there are challenges in attracting and building a talent pipeline. The convention is focused on moving the needle, and Agronovis Indiana will play a key role by joining forces with Microsoft. Agronovis CEO Beth Bechtel joined Gary Dick to explain how.
A lot to talk about in this job piece in the ag bioscience sector. First of all, the FFA convention, a key part of that's going to be what's called the Blue Room. This was an idea you had. Microsoft said, hey, we're going to come in and partner on the Blue Room. You started it last year. How's that going to connect to Indiana jobs?
Yeah, so first of all, it's a 17,000 square foot, what I call innovation pavilion inside the convention center. And you've got Microsoft, you've got Agronovis there in an entry welcome room for these students. But then inside, you also have companies like Corteva, Elanco, John Deere, BASF, Cargill, and plenty of others who all get to display really amazing technology and innovation. Last year, we focused on innovation for innovation's sake and really tried to get these young students from all across the country to really appreciate the depth of technology. This year's focus in the room is really going to start to pivot to the jobs of the future.
Well, talk about that, because I think it's in some ways a hidden secret, the kinds of jobs, the variety of jobs, and the salaries are really good.
Absolutely. The skill sets that many of these ag bioscience employers are looking for today and going forward are changing pretty rapidly. And today, more than ever, they need students who are steeped in data science, in informatics, in the STEM skill sets and disciplines that we know that even other industries like tech or life sciences or advanced industries are also competing for. But there's this real opportunity for a lot of these students who've never thought about a job in food and agriculture because they're not tied to a farm, they don't live in a rural community, to realize just how tech intensive and how innovative and kind of how cool these opportunities for them in a longer term professional setting would be.
And the jobs are there now, and the projections are for a lot more.
A lot more. So today we claim to have 75,000 of these ag bioscience jobs based here in Indiana, but those rates of growth and, to your point, Gary, the average wages and the opportunity from a long-term sustainable career path are just only going to continue to increase.
Another piece of the focus in the ag bioscience space, I know, is startup, is entrepreneurship and innovation, and recently announced G-Beta, rather unique partnership coming in with a startup cohort specifically in the ag bioscience space here in Indiana.
Absolutely. So we partnered with Chelsea Linder, who I think has been on this program with Generator, and worked with them to create a dedicated ag bioscience accelerator cohort here in Indiana. Great support from IEDC, Beck's Hybrids, Ag Alumni Seed, who are all partners of Agronovis in that. We have 5 companies. I got to give them a real quick shout out. Progeny Drone, Phytoption, Ringco, Market Wagon, and Vanco Ag Technologies are those homegrown ag bioscience early stage companies that are getting top-level mentoring, opportunities to learn, opportunities to network with some of the greatest people that we have in the industry here locally.
So innovation really happening right here in Indiana that can be transferred into real life.
This is all tied to one of our key focus areas at Agronovis, which is building a pipeline of entrepreneurial activity here in the state. You want to look for those companies that maybe are starting somewhere else that can come here, but if you aren't building those kinds of entrepreneurial businesses here locally, that's what needs to be priority.
Very quickly, there's a pitch night November 19th as part of this cohort.
Absolutely. Right? They'll be pitching at industry. That's open to the public. We can share more information, but that will be sort of the 7 weeks at the end of that mentorship, their opportunity to really put themselves in front of the audience.
Tied into the Ag Bioscience Summit, I know that AgriNovus will be leading up, so a busy month ahead.
It is.
And a big focus on jobs and entrepreneurship. Beth Bechtel from AgriNovus, as always, thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
Still to come, our Indiana's Future Ready Workforce series takes a look at Indiana's Teacher of the Year, and we spotlight a Logansport company getting national attention. But first, rising startup company Covideo has evolved from a bootstrap startup in Lafayette to a thriving business in Indianapolis. The company creates video emails for sales professionals and more, and its strong emphasis on workplace culture and values is something it believes gives it a competitive advantage. Indianapolis-based tech networking platform PowderKeg recently named Covideo the top-rated health and balance winner at the inaugural Indiana Breakout Tech Culture Awards. CEO Jason Price is in studio.
Covideo was started by you and a couple of others right after graduation from
2004,
Purdue. Right, in 2004, your third startup. How did it come about?
So we had a startup prior to that, as online food ordering business, and we were struggling to get implementation working, so we were trying to actually deliver some training videos to get that company up and running. So we were at Purdue at the time, going to classes, and we couldn't get onto the restaurant sites quickly enough to support them and train them. And we realized there was really no good way to deliver or get a video without either burning it to a CD and putting it in the mail or driving it to them. And so that sort of got the video conversation going. And then we ended up meeting one of our co-founders who was trying to build out videos in the automotive space so they could do vehicle walkarounds, and it just all came together.
You were talking about that growth because now you've moved your operation to Broad Ripple here in Indianapolis, have about 50 employees. Talk about the growth and really what's fueling it, because you've gone beyond the automotive sector.
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, if you look early on, we were way ahead of our time. You know, in 2004, there was no YouTube.
Right.
The B2B space for video, it was quiet for many years. I mean, we didn't see it start picking up till 2012 or 2013. You know, so we stuck with it. And what we're seeing now is essentially if you're in business, whether you're driving marketing campaigns or driving campaigns on social media, or you're trying to communicate with your customers, I mean, video is the most dominant, important form of content you can be using. And so the space is growing incredibly quick, and we're just in a great spot because we've been doing this for so long.
All right, mentioned you're a winner at PowderKeg's Health and Balance winner at the Breakout Tech Culture Awards. Why is culture to you and to Covideo so important?
Sure. You know, for us, it was interesting because when we started, culture was just simply let's close enough business to keep the doors open. Right. We weren't intentional about anything. Yeah. You know, as we started hiring people and we bring people into the company, we just set the baseline. It was simple. It's just we want a place where we want to be every day, where we're passionate about what we're doing, we're having fun, and we want to find people that want to be in a space like that. And you know, you find when you have a space where people can come in and do their best work, they love being at their job every day, you're going to grow faster, you're going to generate more profit. So everything kind of falls through culture, and we've been very intentional about it since day one.
And being intentional in terms of from a creative standpoint, you really put a focus on that in your new space here in Indianapolis.
Sure.
In Broad Ripple.
Yeah, so we got rehabbed an old nightclub, very cool space, two stories high. We got a gym in the office, free snacks every day, dogs walking around, a full service bar with beers on tap. So, you know, whatever you need to balance and unwind, you know, we offer it. And I think that balance is an important part of our operation for sure.
Next steps, as you look at growth opportunities for Covideo, where do you see those?
I mean, for us, we feel like we've barely scratched the surface, right? It's endless at this point. I mean, the market in terms of video is just now picking up. We're in a great spot because our product has matured. We were one of the first people in the market. And so we're just looking forward to the expansion. We're in a good spot to do it. All
right, Covideo, PowderKeg winner in the health and balance area. Jason Price, congratulations on the growth. We look forward to following your story.
Okay, thanks for having me.
All right.
Later in the podcast, a company in Logansport is getting its products sold nationally, and an initiative focused on the addiction crisis marks 2 years. But now, up until about 6 years ago, Tam Markey worked in the corporate world as an engineer with Amoco and BP Pipelines, but the Purdue grad always wanted to be a teacher, and so Markey followed her heart and applied for a Woodrow Wilson Teaching Fellowship to teach high school engineering. Now she holds the distinction of being Indiana's Teacher of the Year for her work at Lawrence Township's McKinsey Center for Technology and Innovation. She joined Gary Dick to talk about her journey.
I want to start, first of all, with, because we want to talk about your path to get there, but when you were named Teacher of the Year, talk about that. I know that was an emotional, very happy time, I'm sure, but an emotional thing. What were you thinking at that point?
Well, it had been a long process that led up to it, and I kind of lost hope. I thought, it's not going to happen for me. I haven't heard anything. It was just kind of crickets out there, and then that exciting morning. I thought I was going to a meeting, only to turn the corner and see all of these people in the auditorium and my family. And it was a very surreal moment, an honor to say the least.
Yeah, I'll bet it was. And your path, which I think is an interesting one to get there, and we see the video here of you learning of the award, but your path to get there, graduated from Purdue, went the corporate route, BP and Amoco Pipelines. Talk about that and how that led you into teaching.
Sure. Well, you know, when I was in high school, I always enjoyed math and science. My high school counselor said, you know, you're a female, you're black, you're good at math and science, you need to be an engineer. And at the time I was living in Idaho Falls, Idaho, with a very heavy presence of engineering through the Idaho Nuclear Engineering Laboratory. So I wanted to get back to the Midwest, so off to Purdue. I went to study engineering and graduated and had a wonderful position with Amoco Oil and then BP Pipelines, but it just wasn't fulfilling. I truly always wanted to be a teacher. I just wasn't encouraged to pursue that passion. And so through the years, I looked at Teach for America and some other transitional programs, and it just wasn't quite right. But then when the time was right, I was able to re-enter and fulfill my dream to become a teacher.
And you're teaching engineering at the high school level in Lawrence Township. I know a number of factors there. As we were talking off camera, partnerships, corporate community partnerships project lead the way among them. Very important in your view to the whole educational process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Talk about why they're so important in today's education world.
Well, things are so rapidly changing because of technology. We find ourselves in a position that we are preparing students for careers that don't even have names yet. So what we focus on are transferable skills, 21st century skills, collaboration, critical thinking, problem solving, and it is critical to have community partners to help have a level of relevancy of what we're trying to teach, allowing experiential learning to take place in the classroom. And it's so powerful to have a community partner come into the classroom to share what they are doing outside of the classroom, what type of career opportunities are available for our students.
Only have about 20 seconds left, but as you look at the landscape out there, women and girls in STEM, the whole process of this focus on STEM, how do you feel about the direction of where things are going?
Well, there's definitely still a huge underrepresentation of females and minorities in STEM, and so we have to start exposing those students earlier so that they can know of the possibilities that are out there for them.
Yep. Tam Markey, Indiana's Teacher of the Year. Thanks for being here. Congratulations too, and best wishes going forward.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Remember, you can catch Inside Indiana Business Television on stations throughout the state every weekend. Go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com to check listings. Still to come, one of IU's Grand Challenges marks an anniversary and a former Marsh gets new life in Shelbyville. But first, Fopper's Pet Treat Bakery in Logansport is the brainchild of a mom who gave in to her daughter's wish to bring a dog into the family. Shortly after Holly joined the fold, Michelle Leffert started a pet boutique bakery. That was 2004, and today the startup has grown into a multi-million-dollar business and the winner of Walmart's Open Call event in June. Leffert was in studio to talk more about the success story.
Congratulations, fascinating story. You started in 2004, but in June you were selected to participate in Walmart's big open call event down in Bentonville, Arkansas.
That's correct.
You went there with the anticipation of meeting with some key people, but things escalated pretty quickly and you went to the front of the line essentially, right?
Exactly. Actually, 700 different companies were represented throughout all kinds of different categories. And we were fast-tracked because we'd sent in a video. Not a lot of people did, which is something there to think about. But we sent in a video about our company, and it really compelled them. They brought us right in and actually funneled us right to the front of this auditorium where everyone was there, and said we would like to introduce our open call winners for this year. It's our company and one from California in a different category.
Wow. I bet that was an amazing moment for you.
Yes. Yeah. I was just like, I was jumping up and down, and I looked at our daughter because she was with me, and I'm just like, can you believe this? You know.
What does this mean for the business? First of all, let's talk about the products.
Sure.
Because these treats, and as we were talking, kind of largely been seasonal type treats, but that seems to be changing.
Yes, it's changing. We do not only the decorated, but also just the brown biscuits with flavors in them and things like that. But it's really going to push us forward to the everyday business that we can really, navigate through and help our people be more automated, our employees, and just really raise the business.
Very much a family business in Logansport. Started in 2004. You just recently purchased another 30,000?
No, another 50,000.
50,000. You had 30,000 originally, investing $1 million into 50,000 more square feet.
That's correct.
40 plus employees. You've got a sizable operation.
It is, and it's growing, and we have a tremendous workforce. We are thrilled. They are wanting Foppers to succeed as much as we do, and they really invest their time and energy into it, and we're just thrilled with what we've been able to build there.
Well, what's next, I think, could be very exciting. The next phase is testing, essentially, for Walmart. What will that mean? How many stores will you be in?
We'll be in 500 stores, 48 states in the U.S. We'll have testing, then they will see how great it is and wonderful. Good. Go buy it, and we'll be able to move on forward with the next phase, which will be in every day.
Very good. Foppers is truly the pet treat bakery. Indiana success story. Michelle Leffert, congratulations.
Thank you very
much.
much.
We look forward to following the story, too, because I have a feeling we're going to be hearing more from your great dog treats.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Later in the podcast, a unique preschool takes over a former Marsh store, and a special panel looks at the state of manufacturing. But now, Indiana University is marking its 2-year anniversary of the Responding to Addictions Crisis initiative as part of the school's bicentennial Grand Challenges program. IU Associate Professor of Counseling and Educational Psychology Ellen Vaughn joins Kylie Valletta to talk about the initiative's progress in the business of health.
Before we talk about some of the progress made, talk first just an overview of what the initiative is and how it really brings a lot of different people to the table.
Yeah, so one of the things that's really wonderful about this initiative is it recognizes that we're all in this together. And so what IU has done is it's brought together an array of IU faculty and then partners with business, nonprofits, and government, and bringing together to do projects in a number of different areas, including groundbreaking data analysis and data collection, education and training, policy development and implementation, and also workforce development.
A lot of different people involved, and it's big funding involved also, $50 million. Yeah. So it's the 2-year anniversary. How do you measure progress so far?
Yeah, well, this is a great question. So one thing is we have some statistics that are telling us that there's been a significant decrease, a 12% decrease in opioid-related deaths in Indiana. So that's kind of broad, but also specific to the initiative, we have faculty working with 144 different community partners across the state. So, and we expect that to grow as we continue to work on these projects. We've been training healthcare workers. We have a number of initiatives, including an ECHO project, which is really video conferencing between healthcare providers around issues related to addiction, such as HIV or hepatitis C. We have one of my colleagues here at IUPUI, Dr. Tamika Zapolsky, is providing counseling in the schools to students who are at risk for substance use disorder, and is working to really expand that work into other schools in the area. And then another initiative is really training folks in the workforce, but also students who are training to be nurses around what they need to know around addictions. We're also doing a lot of naloxone training. So we're seeing that we have lots of partnerships in many, many corners of the state.
And talk about your project, which is focused on training more counselors to have specialize and specialties in addiction counseling.
Yeah, so as a psychologist, one of the hardest questions that I get asked is, where do I send my family member for treatment? And oftentimes this is a really hard question to answer, because I know that in some parts of our state there really aren't enough addictions counselors. And specifically in Indiana, for every 1,000 persons with a substance use disorder, there's only 20 addictions counselors, and that's well below the national average. And so we know there's a lot of unmet need. So I'm very passionate about sort of training counselors, and so what we've done is we've put together an addictions counseling program that really aims to meet some of that need, that workforce need in the long run. And so this program involves coursework, addiction-specific coursework, but also supervised clinical experience in the community. So we have a number of partnerships, existing partnerships, and then we will also be growing those partnerships so students can get that really frontline experience and clinical training.
And you mentioned that you've been working on that, and it's going to get off the ground next fall and ready to launch. So.
Yeah. So we are about to open our application cycle and have our first group of students who'll be taking those classes starting in the fall.
Definitely a big need for counselors. Thank you for being here and telling us about your project and about the initiative.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Still to come, a special Eye on Economic Development panel discusses the state of manufacturing in Indiana. But first, it's a problem facing many Indiana communities. What to do with those big, old, vacant box stores like Marsh. In Shelby County, one former Marsh is getting a unique facelift as a preschool. In our Eye on Education segment, Shelbyville Central Schools Superintendent Mary Harper and Schmidt Associates CEO Sarah Hempstead joined us to talk about how the move reaches beyond the classroom.
Mary, I want to start with you. Okay. It's not every day, I think I saw a quote in there, not every day that you transform an old Marsh store into a pre-K operation. How did this all come about?
Well, we started planning about 8 years ago, and we originally were going to build a building on existing land, and that just didn't come to pass. And so our former superintendent, Dr. David Adams, would just drive around town and look for existing spaces and existing buildings. And when Marsh became available, it was a little bit out of our price range, upwards of $7 million. And so with just planning and patience, the price came down in December of 2017, and the board was able to purchase it for $1 million.
Wow. As you look at what that has enabled you to do, you've been able to centralize your pre-K operations. Talk about that, the efficiencies there, and also demand and how that's really continues to increase.
Well, when I look back 8 years ago, we were serving less than 70 students. So over the course of the years, we started adding classes to our existing elementaries. We have 3, adding community-based classes, trying to keep those prices reasonable. In May of 2019, we were serving 166 students. When we opened our doors this fall, we're serving over 300.
Wow, big numbers. Sarah, Schmidt Associates did the work here. It's got to be a challenge or an interesting task to take an big old grocery store and turn it into a really an educational environment.
It was so much fun, but it was challenging. It's not something we do every day. The key with a big building like that is to bring down the scale to make it appropriate for the littlest students to feel comfortable. And so things like little tiny kid-sized doors make a big difference in how the building feels to the littlest of students.
Yeah. You talk about maybe some of the other features. I know the Golden Bear, you had that theme running through, I think, some of the other features.
We did. So we did things, took like traditional ballards that keep cars from hitting the building and turned them into bear-shaped ballards. They're the Golden Bears after all, so we got to start them in the Shelbyville school system with that school spirit. But also you could take advantage of some of the things like the high spaces. Your Marsh ceilings were really high to do things like put in interior playground space, which is really important in Indiana, and we almost never get to do that in schools. And because it was an old existing big box building, we could implement that here.
And this is a challenge faced by lots of communities around the state, not just old Marsh stores, but big box stores that are vacant, sitting idle, and really become eyesores.
It is absolutely a replicable model. Those Marsh stores were located on highly traveled roads. They have good parking, they have good bones, and letting them become anchor institutions again and really community assets is just a huge opportunity.
Yeah, Mary, as Sarah said, an anchor institution. You view this really as a community asset.
I do. We partnered with Shelby County, and there's a gym, Senses, that is open to the public on Tuesdays and on the weekends. Our students are available to use it during the week. And so it really truly is a community partnership. They moved from a very small space into we probably tripled their space for children ages 6 and under to come and enjoy.
All right, very innovative use of space in Shelbyville, Shelby County. The Golden Bear preschool, taking an old big box store and turning it into a great educational environment. Mary Harper, also Sarah Hempstead, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
And finally, why are companies continuing to invest in Central Indiana, and why does it continue to be so hard to fill manufacturing jobs in the state? KSM Location Advisors CEO Tim Cook and President Katie Culp are in studio to talk about those issues and more in this month's Eye on Economic Development segment.
Looking forward, people continue to say, is it a recession? Is it a slowdown in the offing? But we're continuing to see companies invest in Indiana in general, in particular here in Central Indiana. What's driving that, Katie?
I think what we've been experiencing a lot with our clients, and I think is true at the state and local economic development level, is companies and leadership are expecting the economy to tighten up or worse. And so they're really trying to rush to get everything completed by the end of the year, not knowing what 2020 is going to bring. And so I would strongly suspect that this is we're going to continue to see this through the end of the year.
Interesting. What, Tim, the companies that most recently announced, Ingram Micro with a big investment in Hendricks County, Gordon Food Service in Westfield, a lot of jobs there, distribution. Also LifeNet Health in Hendricks County in Plainfield, a healthcare life sciences company. So diversity in the investment.
It's really exciting, and it's a credit to the state. It's a credit to Central Indiana that you have that diversity. These are really big projects. And to Katie's point, we've been talking about the recession a lot over the last quarter. This seems to be pretty strong evidence that at least in Indiana, we're not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Do you get a general sense as we're heading into 2020? We don't know what's going to happen, obviously, an election year, of course, which will play potentially on things as well. But how Indiana's positioned economic development-wise heading into next year, to 2020?
I think they're pretty strong. I think the economy is more diverse than it was during the last recession. Indiana is still a very manufacturing-heavy state, so when recession does hit, we will feel that effect of it. But I think we'll be able to absorb the shock of it a little better than we did last time.
Yeah, manufacturing continues to drive the Indiana economy, the most manufacturing-intensive state in the country. Katz Sapper Miller out with an annual manufacturing survey. And as you look at some of the issues and concerns and big takeaways, employment, the ability to get people to work, the unemployment rate in Indiana dropped to, I think, 3.2% last year, the lowest since 2000. Challenges for these manufacturers to find people.
Yeah, what we're seeing is that the workforce is shrinking a bit in that area, and the manufacturers are having to come up with their own solutions on how to address that. And so one of the ways they're doing that is automating more, not so much with the goal of replacing people, but because they can't find people, they're having to come up with technological solutions.
Yeah, and one of the other things I thought interesting out of that and the whole automation issue is the kind of psychological or mental stress that's putting on people, whether it's a warehouse or manufacturing operation, worried that their jobs will be taken by a robot.
You're competing with robots, literally, in some of these cases, and it's a physical stress, it's mental stress. I think it's a real thing. When we talk about automation, we talk about jobs being eliminated, but we don't talk about the actual pressures that it puts on some of the employees.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection, too, I think, of there are very small margins, especially in logistics and distribution. And so the speed in which they operate is critical. And so that's putting the pressure on the workforce. And I think there were some reports out recently that talked about that being disproportionately non-Caucasian workers who are being impacted by some of this. So just the stressful environments of, you look around our state, we've got a lot of distribution, and that's the day-to-day reality for many of our residents.
Any sense on how Indiana's position in the manufacturing sector? Certainly, automotive industry continues to change, but a lot of big investment from GM, from Toyota, Honda, and others in the state. How Indiana's position from a manufacturing standpoint?
Yeah, I think this workforce issue continues to be a big problem. Obviously, the governor has invested a lot of political capital, a lot of money into it. We're still hearing our clients at least, but companies talking about the struggles of filling positions. So I hope we're in a better position, but I don't know where we will be until we actually have to deal with some of those headwinds.
Yeah, and certainly from Toyota in Princeton up to automakers like General Motors, we'll see how the strike impacts ultimately once that gets settled as well. Moving on to another issue just now beginning to unfold, I guess, in Indiana sports betting and mobile sports betting. Thoughts on the impact that that's going to have on Indiana? Indiana actually kind of taking a leadership role ahead of other states in the whole betting.
That's pretty uncommon
area.
for our home state. I think from a tax standpoint, I mean, this is a really cool opportunity in terms of additional revenue for the state. I think it's also kind of putting us on the map as a cool place to drive through and maybe stay. It's really taking wind, and I'm kind of impressed we responded so quickly.
Yeah. It might be a stretch to call it an amenity, but to Katie's point, it's refreshing that Indiana would take the lead on something like this.
Yeah.
Because you would have expected them to maybe be one of the last states to adopt it, but they're actually one of the first.
Yeah. As you look at, when you talk about sports, and as you were talking about that, I started thinking about strategies that communities have taken on. Westfield, for example, with their youth sports initiative, that continues to be, it seems to be a successful strategy working up in Westfield with what they have going on there.
It is. I was actually there for a hearing last week, and at their council meeting, they spent a half hour talking about that strategy, how successful it has been, that they've got some of the bond payoffs happening more quickly. So I think financially it's working out, but also just from a sports standpoint, how many people have come to Indiana over the last 5 years and say, I know Indiana because my child plays in a travel team and they're at Grand Park.
Yeah. Final question back on the whole workforce issue as it relates to manufacturing. Do you sense that is becoming, kind of an Achilles heel in some respects for Indiana? I mean, other states are facing the same challenge, right? This whole worker shortage issue. Do you think it could prevent Indiana from maybe landing some economic development deals?
Well, I mean, I think on the gargantuan deals like Amazon, that type of thing, but I really don't think we're different. It is a problem across the country, and when we have clients asking for help with site selection, it's not like there's this magical city somewhere that there's no problem. It's just a pervasive problem across the country, and I think it will correct when the economy changes.
Yeah, give you the final word on that,
I
Tim.
think we continue to play to our strengths and point out that we might have labor issues, but every market does, and we'll work through it.
Lots of great content as always. Tim Cook and Katie Culp, thank you for being here.
That wraps up this week's Inside Indiana Business television podcast. Remember, you can find all of this week's TV segments, as well as the top business news from throughout the state at InsideIndianaBusiness.com. While you're there, you can also subscribe to our platform of free e-newsletters. This is Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business.